You are listening to the E2C Network, where the Auburn family speaks.
Good morning, Auburn family. Welcome back to Inside the Jungle, your source for Auburn men's basketball analysis and discussion on the E2C Network. Another W to talk about today. The Auburn Tigers continue to improve. This time they improved to 14-1 and 3-0 in conference play. The only team in the SEC right now that is 3-0 in Southeastern Conference play. As we continue to get better and better, you're seeing this team mesh more and more, and you're seeing this team get healthier and healthier, and it is a great sign to see as your Auburn Tigers come out on top at home by the score of 85-73 over the Florida Gators. Big win, big tone-setting win, big first real Saturday home game that we've had all year, and the Jungle was as livid as they've been all year. And to do that, I've gone back in the past a little bit to last year since my dad actually was sick today to do the podcast. So I was like, instead of doing myself, let's bring in good old Kyle Loomis. Kyle, how are you?
You can take the guy out of the podcast, but you can't take the podcast out of the guy.
That's great. That's a great line.
If I said that correctly, now that I'm thinking about it, I may have said it backwards. But either way, I'm back, folks. You can't get rid of me that quickly.
That's right. That's right. He's back, and he's here at least for this one. Maybe for the special one upcoming. Maybe later this week. We'll see. But let's just get it. Let's just get right into this game. This is a tone-setting win for Auburn. This is a win that a lot of national writers and a lot of even in the Southeastern Conference people were kind of like, I don't really know about. They look like the best team in the SEC. They've had some weird games. They've played kind of a weird schedule, a tough schedule, but kind of a weird one. But I think this one right here really setting the tone, and the latest, and it's proven with on the national stage with the latest Joe Lunardi bracketology coming out. Auburn is the third overall team, a 1 seed right now. And in the CBS rankings that came out on Sunday today, Auburn is the number 2 team in the country.
Ooh, man, I'm honestly shocked. Great,
it's amazing.
Because here I've got a little egg on my face. On the YouTube channel, we do a lot of discussions about this during the week, whether it be a live stream after the game or just in general chats that we have in other live streams about this. And I've been asked a lot, do you think Auburn will make it into the top 5, the top 3, number 1 overall? And I even said on the most recent one, I think they can break the top 5. But I think, they're going to probably have a few bumps along the way. I don't know that they can break the top 3. And lo and behold, in basketball, rankings don't matter. They really don't. Your RPI, your net rankings, probably the one that you really want to pay attention to. But lo and behold, on a reputable ranking, we're number 2.
Yeah.
What the crap is going on? Like what the actual crap? I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm excited. That's crazy to think about. I was honestly shocked today when I saw that come out that Auburn is being ranked as high as number 2. It's nice to get a little respect, isn't it?
Oh, it's phenomenal. But it's weird coming from an Auburn perspective. It's weird to get respect like this, especially when Bruce Pearl is your head coach and all the crap that this program has gone through in the past and all. But man, my dad, we're going to steal a line from my dad here. You got to enjoy this team while we've got them because this is a good basketball team, and they keep getting better.
Yeah, they absolutely can. And, I'll quote very loosely here because I don't have it pulled up in front of me or the video. Katie Johnson post-game yesterday said discussing what it was like to play for this team. He said he's never played on a squad before where his bench is just as good as his starters, and it doesn't matter who you insert in there. And, it's cliche to say that sometimes. You always hope that's the case, but this is the truth, man. Yeah. Jaylen Williams and Wendell Green come off the bench, and there ain't an ounce of a drop-off. In fact, they're better in some areas. I know we're going to get into all this stuff, but, Jaylen Williams, my man, I love you so much. Let me just say that right now. I have I reserve my man crushes in Auburn sports for special people. Jaylen Williams is working his way up there.
It's that he needs to. The Swiss Army knife for this team. He can do everything. He can defend. He can shoot, and he showed today, especially with Jabari and Walker both getting into foul trouble, especially early, and some really questionable calls, especially on Jabari Smith's end. But we'll let that slide. And Jabari still having, that kind of impact where you look at him and you go, well, that's the first overall pick in the draft.
Right.
But you said Wendell Green. I think we get better when Wendell comes on the floor. He had a little bit of a turnover problem, had 5 turnovers in this game, just to 4 assists, but scored 13 points. Those 2 big threes that he hit, the one in the first half and the one late in the game, huge. And then you get a guy like Alan Flanagan who's getting healthier and healthier and looks better and better physically. And it's shown in his game. He got 8 points and 4 for 5 from the field today with 3 boards. So, but I mean, the depth on this team, being able to go 11 deep with guys like Leor Berman and Dylan Cardwell and Chris Moore and those guys, they might not be crazy scorers, but you don't need that on this team.
Mm-hmm. I don't know that we get better when Wendell comes in, and I don't mean that as a slight as Wendell in any way. He's probably number 2 on my. Actually, if I'm really honest here, Leor Berman is my number 1, really closely by Jaylen Williams, and then probably Wendell Green. And ironically, all of these guys are coming off the bench. That's the funny thing about this team. And I love Jabari. I love KD Johnson. I love all these guys, but there's something special about guys who come off the bench and not only contribute, but change the way the game is played for you in a good way.
Yeah.
And that's what Wendell Green does when he comes in. Yeah, you're right. He didn't have the most clean game in the Florida matchup, but he comes into the game. It's not that you get better. It's just different. The pace becomes different. The style of play, the whole idea of being able to drive into the lane like he does and have the foresight to plan ahead. Either I'm taking this to the hole, or I'm going to be coming around the backside of the board there looking for Walker Kessler, Jabari Smith, whoever coming driving through the paint to dunk it. He's so smart, so aware of himself, even with a game where he had more turnovers. And he just changes the way that Auburn plays. And I think that's part of the reason that these runs that other teams go on where they catch back up to us. I mean, Florida did it today. Yeah. They got back within 1 in crunch time, and that's kudos to them. But Wendell Green and guys like that who come in and just all of a sudden flip the script on how Auburn's going to play you, and there's no drop off. It's incredible talent, and it's an incredible time to watch Auburn basketball.
No kidding. And you nailed it right on the head. He's just different. This is a different style of plays between him and Zepp on the floor, or when they're both on the floor together and KD's out, or however you want to rotate these guards. And you can throw Cambridge in there now because now that Flanagan's back, but he does bring a different element to the thing. You say when he's really smart, and you think about his age, this kid is 19. He was a freshman last year. He's technically still a freshman this year because last year was a COVID year. So we relate him to Jared Harper, but I think he's better than Jared Harper was at this point in his career right now.
It's probably not untrue when you just try to kind of compare proportion-wise this point in his career versus Jared in his career. I still think that we basically took something of Jared, something of Sharif, and combined it into one thing that is Wendell.
Yeah.
Because I see flashes, whether it's shooting from the logo, whether it's, the driving ability, the finding other people ability that Sharif had. We have found a diamond in the rough again in Wendell Green, a guy that people looked over kind of like, yeah, he's a good point guard, but that's about it. Nah, he's more than that. He's a game changer.
And he's coming off the bench.
Yeah, exactly. And doing it willingly. This is the perfect dynamic for a team, because you have guys that are saying, I want to stay off the bench, or coming off the bench, because I'm contributing more to this team doing that. That doesn't mean like in time. I mean, I'm trying to find the breakdown in time here real quick. Wendell Green gets 25 minutes. He's only beaten out by KD Johnson in times played, and that's because there's a lot of foul trouble for some of the guys, the big guys, Kessler and Jabari. He's basically a starter. I mean, you can't argue any other way. It's just because we can't play 6 people out there. That's the only reason he's not a starter.
Yeah. Yeah. You could argue the same thing for Jaylen Williams. Jaylen only getting 21 minutes tonight, but you could say that's low, but you got guys like Jabari, but with foul trouble. I mean, Jaylen played one of his best games today, and the 4-point play was, spectacular. About made my throat came undone when I was screaming at the TV. But we talked a lot about the bench guys. Let's talk a little about these starters a little bit. Let's talk about Walker, foul trouble. some questionable calls, especially early. Him and Jabari got some questionable calls on the inside. I think the refs had a little bit of an eager whistle, but not a great game for Walker. But again, he makes the game so different when he's on the floor, because defensively, not only is he such a big presence in the inside, but he allows our guards to get up and guard, knowing that we've got an eraser behind us. So yeah,
you can take a lot of
he
chances.
Finishes with 6 minutes.
Yeah, you exactly. Can take a lot of chances with him, because he creates opportunities defensively, rebounding wise, that Auburn hasn't been used to. And that's not knocking anybody that's been here in the past who's been considered a rebounder. It's just Kessler's kind of found his role. And I think during this game on the broadcast, they took some images, some plays from him at North Carolina. And even in those few plays they showed of him at North Carolina, you can tell how his game has changed from what he was doing. He's not really filled out a lot more, but he has some. I think Bruce has allowed him to kind of accept the role that he's more suited for on this team, and is what made him so comfortable. And, I think he's just meshed with, as a lot of the players have, meshed with each other so much better than he did formerly with the UNC guys. You're catching lightning in a bottle here with these guys playing together, what they do for each other. And it's exciting to watch. I am concerned with, the foul trouble situations. This was not a perfect game for Auburn. Let's be clear.
Oh, yeah.
This is a game that thankfully we were talented enough to overcome some struggles, whether that be foul trouble, whether that be turnovers, and didn't let us affect us in the end. But Kessler, for sure, even when he's having an off game by points standards, he still makes a huge difference.
Hey Auburn fans, I want to take a quick timeout from this episode to bring your attention to something very special. Here at the E2C Network, we pride ourselves on bringing you the best content for Auburn fans out there. And best of all, it's free to you. But just because it's free doesn't mean there aren't costs, especially when you have a library of hundreds of podcasts, videos, blogs, and more. Many of you have reached out and asked how you can support this network in the past. Well, now I have your answer. It's called the E2C Network Booster Club over at patreon.com/E2C Network. There you'll find a membership monthly reward system where you can sign up for as little as $1 and get different perks at different tiers. Some of those perks include things such as apparel, eligibility to join us on future podcasts, recognition as an E2C Network booster, exclusive communications, and bonus content that is available nowhere else. If you love this network and want to help us keep producing podcasts like this one, please head on over to patreon.com/E2C Network to join the E2C Network Booster Club. You can also get there by going to our website, e2cnetwork.com/support. Whether you decide to join or not, we are still so appreciative that you would support us by just listening and being here, because each and every one of you is part of our E2C Network family. Well, that's it. Timeout's over. Let's get back into the episode.
Let's talk a little bit about probably the player of the game, and it's probably pretty unanimous who the player of the game is, especially the starters role. Let's talk about KD Johnson. This dude, he is lightning in a bottle. He's a ball of energy. There's so many ways you can describe him, and he doesn't just make that impact on the defensive end, but today he made it on the offensive end, going 3 for 4 from 3. We haven't seen that since the Bahamas. He hasn't, scored this much since he was scoring 27 against UConn in our one loss. It was good to see him out there. It looks like whenever he's on the floor, the energy is just, even if he's not on the floor, he just changes the energy of the team. And I said it all the 2 times we played Georgia last year. I said it right when I said it on those podcasts. I was like, this dude reminds me of Sean Shivers, but with more energy. And that, that was hard to say with Sean, but he brings just a different element to the game. And he's perfect in that role.
He's the guy you love to hate if he's on the opposite side of the team, but you love him if he's here. And I'll be honest with you, there's some things that he does that frustrates me. With a little bit of a kind of a coaching. I didn't coach anybody legitimately outside of like rec league and stuff, but being a basketball player growing up, everybody's got a little bit of a coach in them. especially as you get older. And you're taught to not excessively dribble. Don't just stand in one place, dribbling it through your legs. And it frustrates me sometimes when he does that, but every time he does it, he sucks his defender in and either drives past them or throws up a 3-pointer and nails it every time. So it's kind of like those situations where you go, no, oh, yes. You know, that's the player that he is. And, you know, I think there's this balance that Bruce has found with KD and a lot of the players, frankly, is you give them the freedom to try to use what they're talented at, even if it's a little unconventional and not necessarily what you're supposed to do. And then they buy in more into your system and want to play for you, play the right way and do the things that you're asking them to do, because he gives them the freedom to be creative, to be athletes. And that's what I see a lot in the KD situation, where there's a lot of no, but it results in a lot of yes.
Yeah. And he's got the talent to do that, as does all. We have 11 players that I would feel comfortable doing that. Maybe not Dylan, maybe not Dylan Cardwell, but Dylan came in and played an outstanding game off the bench, 14 minutes. That's a little too much for a guy like Dylan, but he had to fill in that role when Walker was getting in foul trouble. He came in, had 7 boards, and kind of hang with the Castleton kid from Florida, and it was impressive, because you bring in a guy like that off the bench who shouldn't get the minutes that he got, but used them well.
Yeah. I think you could make the case tonight that, you know, this game is more about Cardwell and Jaylen Williams than it is Kessler and Jabari Smith. And you can look at the stats to compare that too, for the most part. I know Cardwell didn't have a lot of, you know, he didn't have any points. He had a lot of rebounds. But, you know, really tonight was a test of what happens when Auburn loses its dynamic duo in the front court. And you just saw it against a good team, that there's not really any drop off. You're talking about losing for several minutes the number one player. Of course, there's some drop off.
Yeah,
but it ain't that noticeable, and I am so happy for that.
Yeah, it's impressive. Let's talk about that little number one player that you just referred to. Look, Jabari is a run stopper. He's that quiet killer that sometimes isn't so quiet, but he's that guy that, man, he's going to be a millionaire next year, because NBA teams eat this kind of stuff up, because you see a lot of it in the guys like Kevin Durant and LeBron, and you just have that killer instinct, killer mindset. And he showed it. He showed it 2 for 2 from 3, 13 points, 5 boards, 2 assists, and 21 in just 21 minutes because of all the foul trouble he got in. He had 2 quick ones on the early, which kept him out of a lot of the first half, and then he got that horrible third foul. I think it was at the beginning of the second half, where he had to sit the most beginning of the second half, and that's kind of when Florida made their little run. But then Jabari came in, nailed a 3. It was all over.
Yeah, I mean, he's basically the icing on the cake, but he's also the icing on the other team a lot of time, because you think he's down, and then all of a sudden he's just taking the smoothest 3-point shot ever. Then he's, you know, bringing you into the lane, doing a turnaround jumper. I mean, he's got all the talent. And can I say I'm bored with it? Now, I don't mean it like that, but like, I just expect it now. I was like, oh, he's going to, you know, back up into the lane, do a turnaround jumper. It's going in. It's fine. It's fine. We're good. And obviously we need to be thankful, as your dad says all the time on the show, while we have him and all of these guys, frankly. But he is definitely a game changer. If nothing else, he draws the attention away from a lot of the other guys, allowing them to flourish. That's what happened, I think, for Kessler. Is Jabari Smith all of a sudden was like, oh, wow, everybody, this guy's legit. Focus on him. Here comes Kessler flourishing now. Oh, we got Kessler under control. Oh, here's KD Johnson. Oh, we got him under control. Here's the bench.
Yeah.
Deal with the bench.
We scored 35 points.
Exactly. You took the words right out of my mouth. 35-9. If nothing else, you want to talk about what won this game, it's the bench. That's the story of the night. And I can't remember, Gray, when we were doing the show together last year, I felt like we got pretty decent production from the bench, but I can't think of another time where we consistently, night in and night out, looked to the bench and got excited for the guys that were coming in and being like, wow, what's going to be different? What's going to change out of this? Like, how are they going to tear them up this time? It's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that right there is the fact that, 3 or 4 of those guys coming off the bench now were the starters last year. Mm-hmm. And has that quality experience and knows what it's just as special. It's special. This team is special. They keep getting better. They keep getting wins. Let's do player of the game real quick. Well, I think there's just one, but you can pick within 3 or 4. I think in this game because based on circumstances and however you want to say it, I guess. But I'm gonna go with KD. I think I said in the Bahamas tournament these are his breakout games. This is what's gonna kick him into high gear and get him rolling. But then you saw a little bit of a shooting struggle, but it was good to see him knock down those threes tonight and see. Because his aggressiveness, if you combine his aggressiveness with the shooting aspect, he's got to come out and guard because he can go right by you. And sometimes he gets a little too aggressive. Now, that's something to take into account. But he played a fantastic game.
I mean, yeah, he's the obvious choice in terms of stats and stuff. But I will argue specifically from this game, but I can do it in several games this season. This team is not as good. This team struggles. This team has more losses without Jaylen Williams, and tonight proved it. He's the second leading scorer overall. He comes in, and while he's not as long and big as Walker Kessler, Jabari Smith, you really don't notice any different because he's such a versatile player. Knocking down a 3 for the 4-point opportunity, getting fouled on that, driving into the lane. He has a SportsCenter top 10 dunk the game before that. I mean, tonight, Jaylen Williams, if you haven't paid attention, proved his value to this team. And it's sad for me because, you always give out that 6th man award and it's always a non-starter who gets it every year. And that's it's a big honor to have.
Yeah.
You kind of want to give it to Wendell because he's basically a starter and he's coming off the bench, but then you got to ignore Jaylen Williams and what he's done for this team. I truly believe as of this moment in the season, Jaylen Williams, without him, this team struggles a lot more.
I agree. Because there's just those certain games where, we saw with Jabari against South Carolina, he's the best player in college basketball, but he's not perfect. And neither is Kessler, and neither is a guy like, Devin Cambridge or Alan Flanagan. Having those guys coming off the bench are that consistent and that it make that much of an impact will be the difference in this team being a great team and a good team and a bad team. So and right now, this is a great Auburn basketball team.
Can I have my one gripe? And you know what it's going to be about. What's it going to be about?
I know it's going to be about the free throws.
Listen, 77% for most people is good enough. It's not for me. This team is way too talented to not be making 80% of their free throws. I'm sorry. That's just me. That's my standards. And while I said tonight, I could understand the frustrations in the game that were happening with the refs. Mayans were kind of getting a little bit, focused on that. Still 80%. I got to have it, guys. I mean, Zep Jasper, buddy. You got to make your. He made his free throws. Excuse me. I was looking at 3-pointers there, but these are free throws. Make them. And then the turnover situation that obviously was the bigger thing. I think that was probably the main issue. It was that combined with losing the offensive rebound battle, not by much, 11-9. Florida won that one, but those second chance opportunities, you saw how Florida, while they haven't been picked to do outstanding things in the SEC this year, if you let them hang around, they will do something very bad to you on your home court.
That's going to be a really good team, and a team that's going to cause a little chaos.
And they're missing their best player, right?
Yeah. So I don't know. We'll see. Let's do a little small discussion because they don't deserve much more. Let's do a little small discussion about the game on Tuesday night. Let me check the time. What time is that game?
I can't even remember. I don't have
it. I'm not even like.
Are we talking about the number 2 team in the SEC? Is that what we're talking about? Jeff Goodman, the number 2 team in the SEC? Sorry. Every time I get a chance to dog him, I am.
That was bad. Their game against Missouri was bad. They showed the exact blueprint how to beat them, and Bruce is preaching it to his team right now. But Tuesday night, January 11th at 8 p.m. Central Time, the Auburn Tigers go to Coleman Coliseum for the takeover at Coleman Coliseum, and they will play the school across the state, the Alabama Crimson Tide. And the first matchup in this series, this team won't be ranked next week after their horrible loss at Missouri against a 6-7 Missouri team who was missing their best player. I don't believe in this Alabama team, but they're going to bring their A game. All they want to do is beat Auburn. Because they're the little brother in basketball.
Right.
So let's just go put them in their place Tuesday night.
I think personally that this Alabama team has been highly overrated this entire season. People that were buying into them and Nate Oates, because of 1 year. And now that's not to say that they're a bad basketball team. So don't hear me saying that and think that I'm taking this game lightly. Let's talk about the context of it. I'm just going to say it, probably coming off a national championship win in football. I guess that's a prediction. I hate it, but there's no good scenario out of that. On Monday night.
Stinson Bennett can't catch a snap.
Exactly. But anyway, however it turns out, there's going to be either they're pissed off about that or they're elated about that. They'll be celebrating the Iron Bowl victory that, as we always do, the tradition in basketball season, the presentation of the ODK trophy. And they want to burst our bubbles even more.
Yeah.
No matter what else factors into that, that's what's really at factor here. They're going to be ready to play. They're going to be ready to embarrass us if they get the opportunity to. And you saw that there is, maybe a blueprint for how to best attack Auburn. Get them into foul trouble, out rebound them on especially offensive, to get your second chance shots down. That's some generic things there, but this Auburn team is very good, but it is not perfect. And if they can go into Coleman and get a win, I don't think it'd still be a quad 1 win, even if they drop a little bit in the rankings.
Yeah,
they'll add that. Right. They'll add that to the South Carolina with their resume as really good ones. So as much as we love to give them a hard time, it is still going to be a tough fight, and they're going to be ready regardless of how the rest of this week goes for them.
No doubt. I'm excited for it. Well, always nervous about playing them in literally anything, because you never know what's going to happen in this rivalry in anything, as we saw last November. So we'll be back to discuss that later on this week. And you can tell, Kyle, you go ahead and tell them where they can find you and where they can find the network.
Absolutely. You can follow me on Twitter at TigerEye24. I do some things over there, but the easiest way to keep up with me is over on the YouTube channel. Just type in E2C Network on there. That'll bring that up. We do a lot of live streams. Lately, I've been doing some post-game live streams where we just kind of react and talk about the game itself. We'll definitely be doing that after this one, so don't miss out on that if you haven't checked that out.
Awesome. Also, you can find me on Twitter at Gray Oldenburg or on Instagram at Grayo21. And until next time, War Eagle.
War Eagle. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode on the E2C Network. On your way out, I want to remind you to stop by e2cnetwork.com. It's your one-stop shop for all our content across our podcast, YouTube channel, and much more. To stay up to date with us, make sure you're following social media accounts such as Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. While our content here may always be Auburn sports heavy, if it's orange and blue, it's what we do. War Eagle.